Hello and welcome to the Manage Self-Lead Others podcast, mainly for experienced and aspiring people managers. I'm your host, Nina Sunday. This is the show to help you explore ways to become the best version of yourself at work as a manager. Each episode you'll hear from some of the brightest business minds on the planet who share your passion to elevate and transform team culture. They'll share insights in self-leadership and leading others. Together we can make workplace culture better. Are you ready? Because it's time to manage self, lead others. Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Manage Self-Lead Others podcast. My name is Nina Sunday, I'm your host, and today we have an expert in change, and his name is John Prentice. He's founding partner of Change Enablement and Director of Business Development and Client Success. Change Enablement provides enterprise change capability solutions. They enable and equip individuals, teams and organisations with world's best methodology and world-class change tools to support people leaders and business projects deliver their desired outcomes. With offices in Australia and Hong Kong able to deliver to Asia and the Pacific, please welcome my guest, John Prentice. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Nina.
And we have a long association talking about change. I've attended your certification in ProSci, and that enlightened me to human-centered change and understanding that a change initiative is not just the realm of a project manager. You need a change manager that looks at the human side of things. That was the biggest takeaway and the biggest epiphany for me is I thought change management was about, understanding a little bit about the people, but what your approach to change is that it's unless the people are on board, your change initiative might fall over. Is that right?
Well, I think when you look at it and when you step back from any project that you're doing, if there's a people dependency on the execution and the adoption of it, then if it's not, you're not for the negative purposes of risk, but to ensure that the business benefits are achieved the way that they were intended. If you're not putting that as part of your risk matrix and your risk considerations, then you can well and truly be blindsided by the reaction that people will have to whatever this great solution is, particularly if they're not being brought along on that journey. So I think the bit around that is if projects, not all projects deliver what they intended to do. And a lot of that's got to do with that the people were the last to find out that the project was even supposed to do that. So then the buy-in's not congruent to the delivery of on time and on budget.
Now, I picked up on the phrase risk matrix. Can you perhaps explain what that is? It's a tool by the sounds of things.
Well, I just, if you're a project manager, you understand that there's, you're managing lots of risk. And I think for a long, long time, I think that's the risks are, in the delivery of a function or a task or a work group, in the sense of their ability to fulfill that componentry that, makes up the Gantt chart that gives us the ability to do a whole bunch of dependencies. I think in terms of when we look at the addition to complement all of those principles that are used on a day-to-day basis is not to miss, should I say, that there are some other ones that need to be considered. And that is, are people likely to adopt what we're doing?
And one of the things I understand that your organisation does, Change Enablement, is that it's in the word, in the title. You enable or you create change enablers within an organisation, within an enterprise. If they're doing an enterprise-wide restructure, reorganisation, and certainly these days of COVID, it's all about pivoting quickly and smartly.
That's right, Nina. And I think perhaps if we're just while we've been just talking about one instance of how we and the experience that you've had, I think the matrix that we build is really around building a capability framework within an organisation So top to bottom, executive, leader, project, personnel, frontline. Share a common language with change. They are, they test and try themselves against change, and build an internal capability that enables them to address and face and get through any change that they're having. So whether it be a project or a program that affects the organisation, whether it be a team-based initiative, or whether it be just at an individual level, in terms of how they're developing themselves professionally. We build frameworks that support the maturity of change itself within an organisation.
So when you start to work with an organisation, what are some of the big mistakes you've seen that you've actually come in to repair? I'm thinking along the lines of it could either be senior leaders or mid-level managers, but they're spending all their time on the actual process of change, what they're changing, and they're not having similar meetings with the person in charge of how do we bring the people along, how do we inform them, how do we excite them or make them responsive to the steps along the way. Is that the sort of thing that is missing sometimes when you get started with organisations?
Well, usually there's been some sort of incident where a major system that they've had hasn't been implemented correctly, and they didn't realise any benefit. They've actually still got the old system because it's too politically charged to actually go back into the old way. Sometimes it's just coming through internal employee engagement, where the scores around we manage change well in our organisation are really flagging up that we don't manage it well. So I guess that can come in different forms. Perhaps the key thing here is that change isn't just about training and communications, and therefore it then becomes it's a little bit deeper than that. And I guess where we help organisations is at different levels. I think we help sponsors understand their role, and what they need to do, and how they communicate change, and to whom they're communicating it to, so it gets heard. To people managers, it's not about it's a competency that people managers need to be able to lead not just themselves through change, but their people as well too. And I guess into that's not necessarily a function that's written in most people's job descriptions.
And here's the interesting thing. We're now the second year into COVID, and I think we thought a year ago that perhaps, this is the year of disruption and then it'll settle down. And we're discovering that the disruption is still here and it's still coming. Looks like it's not going to go away. We all have to become change enablers, isn't that right?
I think so. I think for us, our time has arrived in an environment which is fluid and uncomfortable, and you don't. And I think where we were not so long ago, we could get comfortable with what we were doing in the business environment and in life in general. But if we're just focusing on business, it's changing it's changing by the day. It's changing by the hour, and it's changing by the minute. So the ability to be flexible and adaptable and being able to change like that quickly to the situation is in itself, for those that get it right, or even can just do it a little bit, a strategic and competitive advantage that they can seize upon opportunity that arises right here and right now. And the ability to be able to make that switch and do that in a disciplined way ensures that ensures you don't miss out on opportunity whilst others are still scrambling to try and figure out what it is that they're trying to do.
Exactly. Now, I'm thinking about mindset now. It could be that some individual contributors, managers, senior leaders express this frustration with, oh, not another change. Oh, when's it going to stop? Should we be cultivating a mindset where you go, oh, yet another change? Let's be agile. Let's be flexible. Like, just take it on board as, yep, this is part of the role now, and we just have to roll with it. Is that an attribute that we need to cultivate?
I think high performing teams have a distinct radar for picking up that things have changed. The speed within which they then shift and the process by which they follow to be able to make the tweak or adjustment, so that they can accommodate that change successfully. Yeah, is really the speed. It's changing. It's change has always been with us. That's what everybody knows. And when you look back over your shoulder, you go, phew. But look forward. If you look forward, it's changing all the time, and it's faster now than it's ever been before. It's more technologically led than ever before. It's more global in its impact than it's ever been before. So whether it's change within your own organization that we need to make, whether it's change with customers that we need to make and how we service them, whether it's change with suppliers and how they're dealing with the changes themselves. I think the key thing is within change, in the uncertainty of it all, people look for leadership, and they look for those that can actually provide a pathway which is clear for them, even in all the uncertainty, for them to follow. And I think, therefore, as organizations that see themselves as leaders within their industry, at leaders in terms of what they do, need to start to breed that culture and that mindset within their organization, that it's not safe to be comfortable.
Absolutely. I saw an ad on television with the key word was life unchanging, and I went, in your dreams. I think they're speaking to a cohort that is fast disappearing because life is changing, and we just have to accept that and not waste time. Teams and managers shouldn't be wasting time complaining about, oh, we have now, we have to stop doing this and do something new. It's like we just have to relish it and move forward. Is that right?
Oh, well, the default position generally with us as human beings is with change is that we don't like it. So, I think that, overcoming that initial hurdle, and if I flick back to your mindsets question before, we've got to switch the switch. It's the reality is that we're not going back to what we knew.
So, in terms of uh, making sure that change moves forward and we don't waste time worrying about, do we have to change? The idea is we have to change before we have to. And even if you do something, take the wrong step, that's better than taking no step, because you can correct a wrong step. Taking no step at all is actually moving backwards. Can you talk to that?
Well, I just think it all starts with, do people know how to start a change conversation? Do they know the right vocabulary to use to structure the conversation so it's not about spooking people or making people retreat. It's about making the landscape safe. We talk about future state for the purposes of being able to paint a picture so people know where we're going. And if you choose the wrong vocabulary, you can easily send people off on the wrong emotional pathway, just because we didn't know the right words to use at the right time. I think the other thing about change is benefits. Everyone thinks we just need to change. We change all the time. But the real key here is the only reason we're going to change is because we are seeking benefits. Benefits at work, benefits at home, benefits personally. If we keep it in the work context, it's the business benefits. The implication of not changing is we miss the benefits that enable our survival, our growth, our domination, our ability to thrive.
Exactly. You want to move beyond survival to thriving.
Correct. And I think as a discipline, not as an act, as a discipline, the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. The easier it becomes, the more the ability for or people in your organization at individual level and throughout your business to be able to go, I can hear change. I actually know what to do. I can follow some simple steps in a process that enable me to move from my current state to a future state. I may need some help, but I can articulate and request that much more clearly than just in not knowing and in the scramble with people just running around like chickens with their heads chopped off and acting slightly irrationally, and all that emotional energy that's going in the wrong direction, being put to the wrong thing.
Yeah, I'm hearing really good vocabulary like future state, and that seems to be something that a people manager can start referring to. We're in a current state, we want to move to a future state. Is it common for senior leaders and managers to just issue orders about what to do instead of taking the extra time to give it the context of why we need that change, what the overall arching benefit is likely to be, and these are the steps we need to take to get there? Do you find that they're missing a few of those pieces when they are communicating to all the individual contributors?
Possibly, and I think that's perhaps if we then sort of frame that up in terms of the strategic plan of any organisation, it links back to the fact that it's not an uncommon activity. It's a common activity for all organisations to develop a strategic plan. Perhaps the missing link there is, does everybody understand it? And does everybody understand why we're doing it, and the motivational drivers that sit behind it, so people can buy in? And I guess we're talking about a COVID situation, a pandemic situation at the moment. It's the COVID provides apparently a burning platform for communication up from top to bottom to be as clear as it's ever needed to be, in order to ensure not only does the businesses continue to operate, but that people are safe and survive. But there seems to be no negotiation when it comes to following those instructions and hearing those messages. In fact, the evidence I would suggest is that we're at our best when we're operating under pandemic conditions. But when that's not there, but the strategic plan is there, there seems to be an ability to pick and choose what we're going to buy into, as opposed to there's really no difference, is there? Unless there's, in my mind, that your strategic plan is your burning platform. So where's the gap? And I think sometimes that's got to do with how the message is conveyed. I think it's also got to do with, how do people actually know what to do with it now once it's been delivered to them, and can they see their role in how they can actually affect the strategic outcomes that have been presented to them. So in some ways, the strategic plan is the biggest change document in terms of what people need to digest and get their heads around in their busy days.
And I know that you work with large organisations to do an enterprise level change initiative, and you have a number of tools that you use to do that. You have, I think, the ADCAR model, and you also have an experiential, gamified model as well. Can you speak to those?
Oh, I can. I mean, I think, world-class methodology matched with world-class experiences in a COVID safe, globally connected environment, allows us to design programs that are fit for purpose for organizations, irrespective of where they are with their maturity with regards to where they are with change management, change leadership, and change in general. I think I think when we do our assessment, we may just start with, when we look at what do you need and where do we start. It may be that it's a 40,000 foot front end. Here are the basic concepts that you need to get started, and that might just be all you need. That may be some ProSci change management fundamentals. It could also be that we're not even ready for that yet. We just need to come in at it and just experience it, so we can actually get some team going around that. So we've actually got some common language. I think the important bit, though, is that in a lot of instances, change doesn't come necessarily. The concept of change doesn't come with a positive. It generally is digested as a negative. I think what we endeavour to do is work with organisations as their change partner over an extended period of time through a program, to take the lid off the box and let change be spoken about constructively, to get people to do change without overwhelming them with models and everything else. But they can apply it simply within their own environment, so that they can see the benefits themselves. So they themselves are saying, well, I've done that. Now I need to advance myself a little bit further. So within the organisation, it becomes a competency that we seek rather than have change done on, so to
Yeah.
speak.
I'm hearing that currently that there's a lot of change fatigue at the moment. What do you think is the gap that's causing that change fatigue? I mean, apart from the fact that we've got so much change, but surely if the right systems and processes are in place, that change fatigue can be reduced or minimized.
If I look at my own experience, I think, if I take the last 12 months, I think a lot of us, some people, some organisations thrived through COVID. In fact, it was their best performing years ever. But I think for a lot of us, we went from a state of comfort that was leading right up to the moment of which all of a sudden we're in a near-death experience and we're fighting for survival. And I think the amount, people might think that there may not have been a lot of work businesses shut, they weren't able to trade, but I don't think that meant work stopped. In fact, I think lots of people were working harder and have worked harder in the last 12 months than they've ever worked before in order to save their businesses and get ready for the reopening of their economies. So when that happens and you drop a lot of, and for many countries, there's a lot of fiscal, not all, but in many Western countries, there's been a lot of fiscal stimulus that's been dropped into economies. The flip side of that is there's been an upside in terms of engagement, whatever you're doing, and therefore we haven't stopped working hard. We're working even harder now than we were even when thought we were working hard last year. So I think I think when it comes to fatigue, I think you're right. I think there's an element that it looks relentless, yeah. But I'd probably just shape that up again a little bit. It was relentless before we had COVID, and it's just relentless now. So it's never not been tough. I think what's different here is that if you've got some process or you've got some framework around you that you can lean on that helps you get through and manage the change that's going around you, so you've got some sort of control, even if you just do a little bit. The research that we would says that even if you just do a tiny amount, you're 3 times more likely to get the positive outcome that you're trying to achieve than without it. So if you're struggling because you're making it up as you go, then I would suggest right here and right now, stop making it up and start investing in yourself in a slightly selfish way, so you can actually have the benefits of wisdom and knowledge in terms of how you can manage change more effectively for yourself, and as a ripple effect of that, others that are around you.
Now, it seems to me that one way to self-empower is to read a good book. Is there a text that you think that every people manager should be reading that will help them deal with change or get in the right mindset?
Well, if I look at if I was to go to my library right behind me right now, for no other reason, and that's then I would suggest that every leader needs to have ADKAR in their bookshelf.
Which author is that?
And so I think Jeffrey Hyatt, and that's from ProSci.
Yeah.
You can get that from any online bookshop. You can, it's reasonable, and it's one of those ones that if you it doesn't matter what page you open it up, yeah, it's got the answer that you were thinking about, you needed in your head.
That's interesting. Use it like an oracle. I have this question. Open up to a page.
In no uncertain terms. Yeah, it's just one of those. It's just one of those books that should be in your toolkit.
Yeah, it's in my shelf. Yeah. And of course, with your offices in Hong Kong and as well as Australia, you're servicing all of Asia Pacific, and with both face-to-face and online training. But I do understand, I think the gamified experiential version, that's face-to-face only, is that right?
No, it's virtual. I think that's so, Nina, where there's an opportunity to do face-to-face, we'll grab it. It's always good to be in a classroom. Reality is that it's going to be quite a while before we'll be able to do that. And I think when we live in change, we've got to take our customers with us to where the future is. And Zoom and Teams and all of these virtual solutions that enable us to connect globally, all at the same time. And as I call it, teleport your resources and your teams together. These are all of our products and services in terms of solutions are all designed for virtual delivery. And I'd even go as far as to say, I think in some cases now the complexity behind what makes some of these tools work, make it better than a face-to-face experience in the virtual world. So I think we're fast moving into that as a driver for delivery in our future state.
Absolutely. So you've got your experiential change initiative that can be online, and we're moving from our online training courses to moving them into 30-day challenges, 5 minutes a day for 30 days, and there's a lot of fun involved, prizes, leaderboard, points, and it really gets people in. And anybody with a little bit of a competitive streak, they're streaking up the leaderboard to get the most points. It's just becoming the way of the future for training, both online and face-to-face, is have this more gamified approach. And I know that that's something that you do.
Yeah, and I think what that does with us in terms of it doesn't have to just be about change. It can be just about stimulating and engaging your team who are now remote and you're not together, in collaborating to do something that they haven't done before, or give them a challenge. And as an outcome of that challenge, there's some additional takeaways, which is more sort of like, oh, I know how to do this and I know how to do that now, and I didn't know how to do that before. So again, I think, the world's change can be served in many different forms and varieties. But again, it's I think part of our purpose for existing is to demyth change from being a negative, and actually flipping it and actually bringing people into it as a positive, and then they leave as a positive, and they can see quite clearly what they can do to affect the change around them to get better outcomes.
That sounds like such a worthy goal, John, is to flip change as being a negative to a positive, and demything all of that. That's been great. Just before we finish, can you tell me a little bit about how your journey towards becoming a change practitioner, what got you on that road? Because you're a specialist in that area.
Well,
In a couple of minutes.
I mean, I was way back. I mean, when I finished, when I exited university, I had 2 job interviews. I could go that straight after uni. One was with a stockbroking firm. The other was with a .com firm.
Right.
And the advice I got when I had to make a choice was, you can always do stockbroking later. So I think I jumped into change, and I didn't know what I was doing when I did .com. And I think there might have been, well, at the time, I think people thought I was a little bit crazy. But it was an amazing environment in terms of startup at that stage, and fluid, and you needed to be flexible and adaptable. You needed to like people, because people were changing around you as well too. And what was happening today was not what was happening tomorrow, was going to happen tomorrow. Fast forward a little bit there, I ended up, moving into a role inside a telecommunications organisation, where change was what we were about. You never rested on your laurels, and again, I guess we called things projects there when we were actually doing change. That just wasn't called change then. And to that, what fell out of that was more of a time spent working with teams, aligning their behaviour to ensure that it was congruent to strategic outcomes.
And that's what it's all about, isn't it?
It is, and I think, but I guess the bit that I missed, the bit that really sort of followed me through on the practitioner, was that I needed a model that was robust enough to support not just myself, but my clients through change as well too. And a process that was repeatable, easy to use, research-based, holistic. And so I started my practitioner journey from there. And I guess what's happened on that is, that's evolved into change enablement. And my practitionership I don't get as much time in the classroom as I used to. It's more that I've had to change again to help grow my business, and the evolution of what I do, of what I'm doing in our organization is rapidly changing. We've got seven or eight facilitators now that are deployed across Asia. Our business is starting to mature and look like a business. It's and we're 5 years on this change enablement journey. But I think even how we present in the marketplace in terms of it's the array of solutions that we can bring to an organization that's fit for purpose, that gives us a dynamic mix that enables us to engage the people in your organization to connect with minds and hearts front and center to why this is an important competency that all employees should have in any organization.
Thank you, John. Any conversation with you about change is an elevated one. I've had the pleasure of many conversations with you over the years, and I've thoroughly enjoyed today's. Thank you for your time today, John.
Thank you, Nina. It's a pleasure to see you again, and thank you so much for inviting me in to share some of my thoughts with you.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks so much, John. Today we've been speaking with John Prentice on the Manage Self-Lead Others podcast. I'm your host, Nina Sunday. Remember to subscribe and listen to Manage Self-Lead Others wherever you get your podcasts. Till next time, ciao for now.